The brief analysis of cities from the antique past revealed how much some contemporary urban issues are not so new, even if Maya cities bear little resemblance to Accra, Berlin or Kuala Lumpur. This class aims at providing intellectual tools to understand, explain and analyse cities. This session aims at developing an analytical model to understand cities or metropolis, that of the European city, first conceptualized by German sociologist Max Weber. Does it make sense to categorize cities by a geographical location? Should we talk about Latin American cities, African cities, Asian or Chinese cities? Of course, one could hear the bells of anthropologists or historians telling us that things are more complicated and that those categories reify complex realities. Of course, they are right. However, without some level of abstraction, the construction of categories, variables, mechanism, it's rather difficult to explain or even to interpret social phenomenon. Beyond the label European, colonial, industrial city, our job is to elaborate theoretical or analytical models in order to explain, interpret or make sense of the world. Those models, of course, are more or less abstract and when applied in empirical research may prove more or less fruitful. None of them can make sense of the totality of the world, and yes, it's more complex. But the model allows us to compare, to see and to understand part of social phenomena like a city and to miss, to neglect some other things. Each research strategy bears some risks. The idea here is to reflect upon the historical conditions under which the European city model emerged and then was developed. Once the model of the European city is defined, it's an intellectual tool to analyze cities in different contexts. The sociological model of the European city has to be detached from its origins. It may be fruitful, for instance, to understand some transformation of Los Angeles. Likewise, it may well be the case that the model proves inadequate to make sense of some cities of the world. In terms of method, the session aims firstly to characterize the conditions under which European cities emerge and develop during the Middle Ages. Secondly, to present the analytical model put forward by Weber. Thirdly, we'll examine the revision of this model and how it has been used to make sense of contemporary European cities. Fourthly, the model will be used in different contexts in LA to show its fruitfulness as an intellectual tool, but also its limits. The European founding fathers of sociology, Émile Durkheim, Max Weber, Georg Simmel, but also Karl Marx or Alexis de Tocqueville, were not urban sociologists as such. Most of them were interested by the rise of a national, industrial, modern society that they witnessed in Europe in the late 19th century, by contrast to the medieval social order, the large-scale stable peasantry and the towns and cities. Cities were seen as things of the past, who had once been central in the transition out of feudalism, but made irrelevant as a social structure because of a triumphant structuration of the nation-states. Or, to use the eloquent phrase of the Dutch historian Wim Blokmans, because conquering princes and voracious states got the best of obstructing cities and calculating burghers. The model of the European city is invented within historical trajectories in relation to a particular social order, rising states and the first capitalism. It only lasted during some time and then mostly lost its sociological significance. Meanwhile, Europe was not the whole urban world, far from it. Weber developed his model of the Occidental city in comparison with China in particular. Therefore, the logic is not to universalize the model of a European city, but to locate it or to provincialize it.